Hello and welcome. Welcome to Quilt Conversations Live. I'm Geraldine Wilkins, the Living Water Quilter. It's great to be with you for another date night. How are you? How has it been? It's been a couple of weeks. I've missed you all. And Sharon, welcome, welcome. So glad that you're here. Summer is almost over. Can you believe it? Kids are back in school. Cool weather is finally coming in my area. What about your area? Is it still hot? Is it getting cool? Well, we have a serious topic tonight. Yes, Sharon, we do. And I think it's an important topic. There are a lot of things that go into the cost of quilting. Whether you're a hobbyist or a professional quilter, teacher, enthusiast, crafter, everything has a cost. There's a cost for time, there's a cost for resources, and resources can include time, it can include financial resources, it can include all kinds of things, which we're going to talk about. Hello, Claudette. So glad that you're here. Welcome. Let me know if you have considered the cost of quilting. Has the cost of quilting limited what you can do in quilting? Have you had to consider the cost of a machine, the cost of fabric? What about the time investment? I know many ladies cannot begin to devote their time, the time, because either they're working, they have children, they have family obligations, so they cannot quilt until they retire, or they wait for that special week or 2 weeks out of the year where they have some free time to do some sewing or quilting. Hello, Yolanda. So glad that you're here. You're ready for the topic. Great. I want to talk about this from two different sides. And I think it's important because we love to quilt. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. We love to quilt. How do we continue to quilt, have fun, and recognize the cost of it, right? Recognize that there is an investment. How do we manage that? Yes, that's a good point. That because of the cost of finishing a quilt, a lot of ladies have invested in a long arm, sit down, or frame so that they can save on the cost of machine quilting, going to a long arm. They've taken the time to save money to buy the machine, to learn how to use it, to take classes so they can quilt their own quilts. Oh, thank you, Jen. I'm so thankful you said that. I appreciate that so much. But before we dive deep into this topic, let's do some updates. Let's do some updates. So, if you are new to the channel, I always have resources to help you move forward in your machine quilting journey. And I released some new courses this summer, and one is how to set up your machine for free motion quilting success. It's an entry level course, but it's packed with all kinds of tips and helps. It talks about the tools you need, it talks about how to set up your machine with the common things: thread, needle, tension, all the things that you need to set up your machine. It doesn't matter what machine you have, they all use the same thing, right? Thread, needle, tension, foot pressure, feed dogs. We go through all of that. But the bonuses included, you learn how to adjust your tension. I show you my step-by-step process for checking tension every single time I sit down at my machine to prepare to quilt my project. And I give you my system so that you can also be successful. And I do this every single time. So that is a new course this summer. And also, a new course this summer is the Quilter's Canvas. Many of you are already enrolled in the Alphabet Design course. The Alphabet Design course is an introductory course that helps accelerate your ability with free motion quilting. How? By using the alphabet. Once you use the alphabet drills to practice the movement of free motion quilting, because now you know how to set up your machine for success, right? You then take those designs and you practice those designs in real quilts. You do the drills, you learn some new free motion quilting designs, and then after that, you know I've always said you want to go from practice to quilt. So the alphabet design course is all about creating an environment for successful free motion. But ultimately, you have to put it in a real quilt. And that is what Quilter's Canvas is. It's an opportunity to take designs, whether they're alphabet based or ones you already know, and you put them in this beautiful quilt. It's a simple block, but it makes complicated patterns. I'll show you more about this later. You can make a quilt that's a lap quilt, a art quilt, you can make a table runner, all from the same block, and then you put designs in it. So this course involves a lot of steps, and I'll show you more about it later. This is just a quick preview update. But something else that I've done that I think may be helpful to you is that I've created a bundle of 4 of my popular courses: the machine quilting setup for free motion, the quilter's canvas, a course about needles and thread, which is so important with free motion, and then I go over those fears and challenges that we face as machine quilters when we first begin our journey with free motion. So I coach you through those fears and the avoid 3 big mistakes in machine quilting. Then you get the courage to go set up your machine in the machine set up for success class. Then you learn about needles and thread in the needles and thread course. Then you take those 3, you bring them to the quilter's canvas so that you can start to quilt. Increase your confidence. So these 4 as a bundle save you $50. If you get all 4 in the bundle, you save $50. Individually, you would pay more. Get what you need. Get the course that you need to help you get to the next step. So that is a new thing on the website. I created a bundle so that you can save money and get the 4 courses that work well together to help you get to the next step. Okay, so now that we've gone over some of the updates, the new courses on the website, let's get back to our topic, the cost of quilting. And one way to get us started is we're going to play bingo. Have you played bingo with me before? All you need is a sheet of paper, a pen, or a pencil. A clean sheet of paper and a pen or pencil. What you have to do is just take that paper and draw 3 lines horizontal and 3 lines vertical. Hey, good evening, Jacqueline. So glad you're here. Hello, Jean. Welcome. Nice to see you. It's been a little while. Hope you had a great summer. And hello to Madonna. Welcome, welcome. So, Madonna says that I don't sell, but I do keep track of the cost. I'm in it for the fun. Yes, a lot of us are in it for the fun, but it does still have a cost, and we have to be budget wise sometimes. So let me know in the chat when you are ready to start bingo. Just say ready in the chat. Hey, Sandy, welcome. So glad that you're here. Welcome, welcome. Quilting does have a cost. It does. And we're going to go over some of those. Once I start the bingo, what I want you to also think about not only are there words on the bingo card, but I also put dollar signs. And the number of dollar signs represent what I think it costs. So $1 sign means it's low cost. $2 signs means it costs a little bit more, this particular thing that we use for quilting. $3 signs means we pay a good penny for it. $4 signs means it's expensive, but it's something that we consider and we buy because it's the cost of quilting. Let me know when you're ready. So let's see. Sharon says she's ready. Yolanda's ready. Hello, Rochelle. So glad that you're here. Madonna's ready. Fantastic. Yes. Okay. No worries. We're just getting started with Quilt Bingo. We're doing the cost of quilting to get us started. Jen says, yep. Jean says, ready. Awesome. Okay. Here we go. Let's start the bingo. So this is what you're going to do. Once I reveal the bingo card, it's slowly going to reveal something that we pay for in quilting. And if that is something that you have paid for in quilting, you're going to put an X in that box. I think that most of us are going to put an X in every box. That's what my thought is. So to win bingo, that means this time you're going to have a X in every single box, not just across or diagonally. All right? This is a different version of bingo. So here we go. Cost of quilting, the cost of quilting. And I also want your input. Maybe I've priced some of these too low or too high. So I have cutting rulers. I have spent a lot on cutting rulers to cut fabric into different shapes, to help me with different types of quilt blocks. What about those specialty feet for our machine? How many of those do you have? Batting. It could be cotton batting, polyester batting. It could be bamboo batting. How many of us have spent hundreds of dollars on batting? What about your rotary cutters? Do you have just one, or do you have a 45, a 60, a 28? How many different types of rotary cutters do you have? We also have cutting mats. And I have a big cutting mat, a medium, a small, a rotating cutting mat. Maybe I should have made that $3 signs. I have a lot of cutting mats. What about your chair, your sewing chair? Hello, Steve. Welcome. Or Norma. Maybe it's both of you. Welcome, welcome. Okay, we're playing bingo, Norma. Just get a piece of paper and 3 lines across, 3 lines down to make a 4x4 grid and put an X on everything that you have spent money, resources on to help you make a quilt. We need good lighting. What about your sewing machine? Have you invested a lot in a good sewing machine? And thread, how's your thread collection? I have a lot of thread. Free motion quilters, we love thread. Embroiderers, we love thread. What about your free motion acrylic templates or quilting rulers? Jacqueline, we are going to see if everyone fills the whole card. If you fill the whole card, this time it's bingo. I assume everyone's going to have at least 1 line across and 1 line vertical. Who has filled almost the whole card? Here is the last one. The last one. The last expense. How many of you have filled out most of this card with an X? Right? Have you purchased a quilt kit? I assume everyone, like Jacqueline, has at least vertical, horizontal, or diagonal. Jean and Madonna say bingo. I am assuming that means you filled the whole card. Yolanda says yes. Claudette says everything except the long arm. Okay, all checked except the kits. So we're all pretty much close to the entire card. Think about how much that is. Just throw a number out. Just if you were to say in your life as a quilter, how many thousands of dollars have you spent? Well, I don't think anyone's a loser, Joe. No one's a loser. We all do all kinds of quilting, right? Rochelle says everything except the kits. Yolanda says, yes, lots of dollar signs. We spend a lot. And a part of it is because, like someone said earlier, I think it was Madonna, we enjoy it. It's our hobby, it's our passion, it's a way for us to relax, it's how we have our downtime. We're willing to do that. So Sharon gives the cost of quilting lots of dollar signs. How many is that? Is that 7? That's a lot. Yes, Susan, everything but the long arm. Many of us send out our quilts or we quilt on a home machine. Sandy says, too much to think about. And Norma says, yes, yes, lots and lots and lots. And Jean says, hundreds of thousands. Joe says she's only quilted for about a year and $10,000. Well, I don't think it's shameful to not sell your quilts. I have plenty of quilts that I haven't sold. I started giving away quilts to family recently as gifts, to pass down to my nieces and nephews. I want them all to have a quilt from me. And we've had that conversation about the cost of the quilt, the investment, and how it can be something that they can pass down to their children. Yes, yes, Norma, enough to buy a new car. So I think you ladies get the picture. We invest a lot in a quilt, not just collectively, which the bingo is basically the collective cost. But what about one quilt? Just one quilt. How many of you have had someone say, hey, can you make a quilt for me? I'll pay you. How much does it cost? $100? And you'll say, oh, no, 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 no. It's not $100. That might buy some of the fabric. What size quilt did you want? Oh, I want a king size quilt. And then you tell them it's going to be about $500 in cost alone, not my labor, not my time. The fabric, the batting, the quilting, going to a long armor, about $500. People ask me to make quilts for pay. I would rather make quilts for love. And I agree. A lot of ladies do not want to go into the business of quilting. I completely understand that. Um, Rochelle says, I have a dedicated space in my house, so I'm completely invested. You sure are. Yes, that's a good idea. Just go to Macy's. Deborah says, then you laugh, right? When someone says, can I give you $100 for a quilt? I know. It's just a lot to make a quilt. So we need to invest in fabric. Okay, who has that fabric stash? Who has a good, healthy fabric stash? I'm raising my hand. I do. I have enough fabric kits and fabric to make at least another dozen quilts. I confess. Right? We have a lot of fabric and we like to buy things on sale, which again increases our stash of fabric. Hey, Kim, how are you? So glad that you're here. Welcome. Yep. Yes, Jacqueline, the machines are expensive, which leads me to talk about that in just a few moments. I want to talk about machines too. But once we buy fabric, maybe we buy the fabric, then we buy the pattern. Sometimes we buy the pattern first, the quilt pattern that we want to make. So there's a cost for patterns, for the instruction. Sometimes we get free patterns, but nothing is really free. Are quilting patterns really free? They are not. Someone has invested time and energy into making a sample, testing out the pattern, writing the pattern, editing the pattern. That pattern was not free. So even when we receive something as a gift or someone gives it to us and says it's free, it still had a cost. It still had a cost, right? And Jacqueline mentioned that, her machine alone cost $6,000, right? Sewing machines, when we invest in one, we want it to last a long time. And I am guilty of buying a machine as a young hobbyist that I thought would last a long time. It didn't. So I had to buy another one. And I know sometimes we have to go according to our budget, but the best thing we can do is buy the best machine we can or wait and save so that we don't have to repurchase the machine over and over and over again. We have one that lasts 15, 20 years, right? Well, what else do we have to get in order to make one quilt? We have fabric, we have a pattern, we need a machine, but we also need other supplies, right? What other supplies do we need? We need cutting mats, rotary cutters, we need an iron, we need batting, we need spray basting or pins, we need quilting gloves, we need all kinds of tools that all cost, right? Some of them, of course, are extra and convenient. It makes a particular task easier if it's something that we have to do over and over again. Like, for instance, do we actually have to have a rotary cutter? No, we can just use scissors, but is it going to be as accurate? Probably not, right? Or we have to work slower. Let's see what's happening in the chat. So Kim says she has a lot of kits. I can't resist them. I know, they're beautiful. I have a long to-do list, says Sandy. It's like candy. You love it all. That's true. That's very true. And Sharon says she has a good, healthy fabric stash. She was involved in a shop hop and it involved 96 shops. Wow. And you visited 13. That's amazing. That is amazing. What else do we need? We need some things, like I mentioned earlier. One of my best purchases, but it cost a good penny. This is a 20-inch by 20-inch or 20 inches and 1/2, 20.5 inches square cutting ruler. So the quilt that you're seeing here, this love quilt, is 20.5 inches. And I was able to square up a huge quilt in terms, like if it was a block, we don't make 20-inch blocks, but say that I did, any block size I can square up with this big ruler. I love this ruler. Do I use it all the time? No, but instead of using several small rulers, I have this one big ruler, but it's expensive. And some of us want some of these specialty tools to help us be more accurate in our quilting. Good evening, Lorraine. How are you? So Claudette says, as a newbie in the quilting world, it's hard to distinguish what is a must versus what is a want. And you are exactly right. So the best thing I think is, one, a lot of times we'll go on YouTube, we'll see people demonstrate something, or our quilting friends, if you join a quilting group, some will give suggestions. Sometimes there are demos at quilt shows. And I just say, take it nice and easy. Don't go overboard too quickly, like I did. I kind of went overboard with all these specialty rulers that I've used maybe twice. Some of them I have yet to use. Raise your hand in the chat. Say yes or no. Do you have specialty rulers that you have yet to use? Cutting rulers? Let us know in the chat. So, what else do we need when it comes to sewing? What else do we need to make a quilt? We need sewing tools, right? We've talked about some of those. Think of all the sewing tools that you have inside your sewing space, right? In your studio. You might have a long arm, or maybe you send out to get your quilt quilted for you. So I have a curved ruler not yet used, says Jacqueline. And Madonna says, yes, she has many rulers. Madonna says she has many rulers. Yes. And Jean says, of course. Of course. What else? The cost of making a quilt. We need sewing tools. We need quilt patterns. We need to have it quilted, whether we quilt it ourselves. Start adding this up. Each one of these, we need good lighting. We need to be able to see what we're doing at our cutting table, at our sewing machine. What else do we need? We need storage for all those quilt kits and the fabric stash. We need storage, plenty of it. What else do we need? A good sewing machine. Okay, the price of the cost of quilting is going up and up and up, right? How do we cut our fabric? We have lots of tools for that, right? Lots of tools. You can get a die cutter. You can get a Cricut. There's all these tools to help us cut fabric. Elizabeth says time. Yes. Ironing board. Yes. And then Rochelle says she has a lot of thread. Lots of thread. Lots of thread. What else? Of course, I said fabric. As you can tell, we need a lot. We need a lot to make a quilt. So, why do we quilt when it costs so much? Because we love it, right? We enjoy it. And we do find ways to minimize the cost of quilting. But I think you ladies understand that quilting, like many other hobbies, have a cost. There's a cost benefit. There's some tools we will invest in because we want a particular pattern that we like to make to be easier to make. And so we're willing to invest in that tool, in the pattern, invest our time and our money, right? Quilting keeps Rochelle sane. Yes. Storage. Yes, Joe, we need good storage. So many things that we have to consider when we indulge in a hobby, something that's going to keep us sane, like Rochelle said. So, what is the other thing that I want to talk about? Since you all can relate to the cost of quilting, let's look at the other side. We are, and I'm including myself in this, receivers of amazing products, tools, patterns, and all of those, whether they're free or paid, have a cost. So the other side of quilting are those people, individuals, companies that make things for us so that we can stay sane. Those who make quilting patterns, those who make quilting tutorials or courses, or they teach in person, or they do free events online, like doing Quilt Conversations live. Do you think that this has a cost to me? It does. It's not just my time right now. It took me all day, one day, several hours, I'll say, let's say 6 hours, to put together everything that was needed to create this live stream show. All the photos you just saw, all the text, being able to put the comments up, put the previews up on Facebook, put the previews up on YouTube, all of that costs something. It costs my time, it costs my effort, and it has a financial cost as well. So I don't know if many of you heard of Chat GPT. It is an AI thing where you can go in and ask it all kinds of questions. So as I was preparing for the cost of quilting, I asked a lot of questions about that. And I said, well, what is the average cost of running a online education platform for courses? What is the average cost per year to run a live streaming show like Quilt Conversations Live? And I gave it all the list of things that are required for an online education platform. You need the website, you need maintenance, you need photos, you need video, you need all kinds of things. For live streaming, you also need photos, you need video, you need all kinds of things. You need a microphone, you need all kinds of things. What is the average cost? I'm not going to tell you what it is for those two. I want you to think about it as I talk about the cost of being a quilt teacher. So I teach, right? I teach quilting, and it has to start somewhere. So I hired a graphic artist. He's here local in Fredericksburg. And he created my logo for me. We had a multi-month discussion about Living Water Quilter. That is my brand, my quilting business. I had to pay him money to create that. I've also used him, paid him to create content for my quilting classes that I teach in person. The handouts, I hired him to create designs like the alphabet course. Many of you are in the alphabet course. When you download the alphabet drills and the alphabet design sheets, Gabe, my graphic artist, him and we worked together for months to create those design sheets. And it costs thousands of dollars to create those because he makes a living at being a graphic artist. So I appreciate that. And I want his talent and skills so that I can give you something that you can use. But it costs thousands to have it done. Same thing with the logo. And by the way, that's a little kitty. I was in Gabe's shop while we were talking over the logo. And this little kitty wanted to weigh in, and she gave her paw of approval for the logo. Paw of approval. You are welcome, Joe. I'm thankful that you appreciate that. And there are many ways in which we can, including myself, show appreciation for those who spend the time to make videos for YouTube, spend time to make tutorials and other things. Yes, what you do is a labor of love, and I appreciate you. Well, yes, in some parts, Kim, it is a labor of love, but it's also how I make a living. This is how I'm able to pay my light bill. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. So, what is the other thing that we want to consider as a teacher, especially since I went from teaching in person, right? I started to need certain things on top of all the stuff we just talked about in making a quilt. I had to get additional things so that I could live stream this show: a table, a computer, a microphone stand. I had to get a laptop. I had to get lighting. I had to get a, a microphone and a boom arm for the microphone. And I had to get earbuds. And also, I use a lot of these things like a projector when I teach in person. These are things that I have to bring also to in person events, a voice amplifier. All of this has to be purchased and maintained on a regular basis. This is the cost of teaching quilting, the cost of teaching quilting. And it's not just me. I'm not speaking just for me. I'm talking about all those who we benefit from in the quilting industry that make patterns, that teach videos online, YouTube, whether it's social media or it's in a course on their own website. So, what about when I make a course? There are all of these samples that teachers need to make. And then on top of that, sometimes we create step outs. If you're not familiar with step outs, it is a step by step sample of each step. So if it takes 10 steps to make something, you're making 10 different things to represent each step of the process. Think about that. How much time that takes. Rochelle says, as much as I love quilting, I will never do your job. I appreciate you sharing your skills and knowledge. It doesn't go unnoticed by me. Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad it does not go unnoticed. What about from teaching in person to teaching online? It's not the same thing. Once we go online, there are so many things. If you have been here from the very beginning, in my early days of Quilt Conversations Live, let me see, where am I at? Okay, I'm right here. All right, there we go. I had to develop my on camera presence, learn how to smile while still talking. I had to learn how to have a conversation with you back and forth, lots and lots of practice, so that I can then create videos like you see here, teaching videos that are in my courses, right? So that I can share the technique or pattern with you. But also all that equipment you saw to be able to record the video, to edit the video, to it's a lot of work. Many hours. Many hours to actually record a course for an online education. So, now that I've given you kind of a backdrop on what it is to be a quilt teacher, think about how technology has changed the way we learn. Let me know in the chat, what ways do you learn quilting? Do you learn at a guild event? A guild event? Do you learn at a quilt show? Are you learning, gaining more knowledge and information via a online course? How are you learning? Rochelle says, I need a raise. Amen to that, Rochelle. I sure do. Let me tell you that as an educator, just like any other field, we have to keep up with technology and where and how people learn. And I have to say that how that happens over time is, first, it was quilt guilds. That was where I first began teaching, at quilt guilds. That's where I was developing and honing my skills as a teacher. So Lori says she is learning through online videos. Okay. Sharon says that she's learned through both online, in-person courses and online courses. Great. Madonna says she's learned by binging YouTube videos. And Jacqueline says mostly online from others. So everyone is learning online in some way. Think of all of those online teachers that give free tutorials on YouTube, free education, even if you pay for it. Can we say thank you once in a while? Can we leave a comment for those teachers who have made the video? Maybe you do that. I try to make it a habit to give it, on a minimum, a thumbs up, a thank you, something to recognize that it took time, resources to create that content on a minimum. Jean says she learns through classes and watching videos. Yes, I'm glad that you do. Yes, it is so important, right? So guilds. So I, as a teacher, I started with quilt guilds, and then from there, I went to quilt shows. Teaching at these are very different. Very different. With a quilt show, each show has its own list of requirements that you need to do to perform over several months in order to teach at the show. You have to enter your class information in their portal. You have to fill out certain forms, all kinds of things. I'm not going to go into detail, but that is on top of the classes that you create that you have for the show. So sometimes I can use the classes that I teach at a guild and then bring them to the show, but there's also another layer of labor involved in preparing to teach at a quilt show. Some quilt shows only want brand new content. So one quilt show, if I want to send a proposal, it has to be a new class. And then they want 3 to 5 different offerings in your proposal, which means the type of classes I generally teach in person are ruler classes, and I use the same graphic artist to create the content for those classes. So for each class that I create brand new from him, to hire him to create those designs for me, to take my designs and make them into a usable teaching sheet for students to use at home, each time it costs me $500 to $600 for him to do each individual class. Before I've even taught the class, there's this investment in this graphic artist. That's just one small thing. So in order for me to apply for this one quilt show, I need to spend money to do it, to create those classes, get a higher graphic artist to create all these samples, blah, 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 right? So this is just kind of the background. A lot of times you'll see all this stuff that I share online, but you don't know all the work that's happening in the background. And I'm sharing just a little bit of it to give you an idea. The next thing that happened, social media, especially after COVID. Well, during COVID, social media kind of exploded, right? We have Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and TikTok and all these other places where quilters want to be fed videos and tutorials. Yes, holy moly. Holy moly. Wow, says Lori. So not only am I creating content for guilds, events, for quilt shows, now there's this social media monster. And on these social media platforms, sometimes quilters have this mindset like, oh, can you create a tutorial on this? Can you create a video on this? Can you do this? Can you do that? Oh, I would like this, or I would like that. And that's another reason why I'm sharing this. It's because we can ask that of creators, not just myself, others, teachers, but keep in mind how much they are already doing, and they're not getting paid for it. And we're asking them for more free labor. Okay? Think about that. The other thing is live stream, which I talked about, which I'm doing right now. And I mentioned earlier, I asked this AI system, give me an average of what it costs to live stream for a year. It costs on average, based on the information I gave it, because with AI, they only spit out what you give, right? So I gave them the list of things that I use, basic things, not everything, but basic and it said it costs for those things, not my time, just the tools, $3,500 a year to live stream. $3,500. So for me to break even, I would have to sell $3,500 worth of courses. So when you come here and I talk about my new courses on my website, it's so I can pay for the ability to live stream, but then also earn an income to keep the lights on. So think about that. Think about that. What's the other thing that I do and other creators do? We create online courses, which many of you said that you take. And I briefly shared with you how much it costs or how much work is involved, all the equipment, all the time that it takes to create an online course. Again, I asked the AI, I gave it the parameters, I gave it a short list of things that I know that I pay for to maintain a website, and it was the bare minimum. It's not all the hours that I spend editing, uploading things to the website, maintaining the website, etc., etc. The bare minimum is $6,500. $6,500 to maintain an online platform for online courses. So just to maintain my website with online courses and to do this live stream, to break even, not even to earn an income, I need to make $10,000 to break even. That's why I'm sharing this, Michelle. Many don't know how much these things cost. So some ladies will comment, which happened recently. She said in a comment on one of my videos where I was talking about a quilting tip, and I said, if you wanted to learn more, go to my website and you can take this course. And she said, well, what do you have that is free? And she put free in capital letters. Needless to say, I didn't respond because nothing is free. Even when I give it to you for free, it still has a cost. Still has a cost. Thank you, Cynthia. I'm glad that you like my videos. And another thing that someone has said to me over the years, she wanted to buy one of the t-shirts. So when she went to the website to get the t-shirt, she said, in an email, she took time to write an email to me to tell me that she wasn't going to spend the $25 to buy the t-shirt because she thought it was too much. I say keep that to yourself. If you don't want to buy the t-shirt, don't buy it. But to say you can't spend $25 to help me as a creator, someone who creates ongoing video tutorials and content for you for free, meaning you don't pay anything, but you're not willing to spend $25 on a t-shirt that I might get $2 from. And you take time to send an email to me to tell me that. Yes, most people don't know. And I think it's important to have these conversations. And the reason why I started off talking about the cost of quilting is because you can relate. That's a point of understanding. From that position as a quilter, you know how much it costs for fabric. You know how much a machine costs. You know that it costs money for thread. It costs money. The camera that I'm using for this is $1,000. The monitor, all the things needed have a cost. Oh, thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. So, what can we do? What can we do? Now, I'm not saying that I haven't been in your shoes because I have. I have been in your shoes before I was a teacher, and I still am. I get a lot of free inspiration and content free, right? The stuff that's online still has a cost. We already acknowledged that. And on a bare minimum, we can decide, let's see, let me do this here. I want to cover, nope, I want to bring that one back and cover this one. We don't want to have a mindset of entitlement. And when I say that, I mean that when we go to these creators, these quilters, these pattern writers, and say, well, could you do X, Y, and Z, but I don't want to pay for it. I saw someone in another YouTube live show where someone wrote in the comments and said, why do we have to pay $5 for the pattern? $5. They asked that. And the person who was talking said, you know what? These ladies work very hard to create these videos and other things for you. Why wouldn't you want to pay $5? So that's another example. Another example is that I had a series of videos on my YouTube channel that I decided to make private, to take it out of the public domain. And one quilter contacted me and said, hey, I can't find X, Y, and Z videos. I said, oh, they're no longer public. They're now private. I'm going to use them for something else. And she's like, well, why did you do that? Because I'm about to teach at another quilt shop using your videos. Now, I didn't even know that she was doing that. So she and the quilt shop are profiting off of my videos, and then they complain to me that the videos are no longer available for them to use for their gain. This happens too frequently. So Rochelle asked a very good question. How has turning quilting into a business affected you, and how do you feel about the craft? This is a good question. It has challenges like anything else. Once it goes from a hobby to a business, the dynamic definitely changes. And of late, especially since I have focused the last 4 years on creating online courses and creating this live stream show, Quilt Conversations Live, it has not allowed me to spend time as a quilter personally to make quilts, which is what I love to do, design and make quilts. I have made 2 quilts in the last 4 years. Is that right? 2 quilts. And it's the Beautiful Sister quilt. I've made some smaller projects, but most of my time and effort has been in creating classes for quilt shows, for online courses. Now, granted, this is how I make a living, right? So I'm not really complaining about that. My concern is I'm including myself, having an entitlement mindset that we should get things for free or for no cost at all when everything has a cost. A little bit of, we don't want to pay $5, or maybe we'll pay 10. Someone sent me an email and they complained about the shipping cost. I have no control over the shipping cost. Should I pay for the increase of shipping costs and thereby make no money? I can't do that. As a business, I pay taxes. All that equipment that I showed you, my county charges a tax on my tables, on my computers, on my microphone, on my phone. I have to pay business tax on everything I have: a chair, a table, a microphone, a computer. They get their money. My light bill, the electric company gets their money. My online platform, hosting platform, they get their money. Everyone gets paid, and whatever is left is when I get paid. And it's not just me. I'm not talking about me. I'm using me as an example. Living Water Quilter, the business, as an example. so that when we are out on these internet streets, when we are at quilt shows, and we're talking about if the price of food has gone up, if the price of gas has gone up, it has gone up for those businesses as well. And for us to expect things to cost exactly the same as it was 5 years ago, or complain about how much a course costs, or a pattern, I think it's unfair to have that sense of entitlement. I think it's unfair. And that is why I'm coming on here to share with you that it does have an impact on teachers. And so Rochelle's question is a valid question. Sometimes I want to stop. I want to say enough is enough. Sometimes I say, okay, here's my arm. Go ahead, attach the IV and drain all the creativity out of me. Some lady says, well, I'm not very creative, so I wait for you to post things, and then I take that and then I recreate it and then I teach it. But I give you the credit. And that's true. Most people do not understand the rules for intellectual property. Here's a prime example. Again, I'm giving you a behind the scenes. This is not me complaining. This is me telling you the reality of being a teacher. That the cost of quilting, of us quilting, all being a teacher, being a business owner, whether you have a quilt shop or whether it's online or in person, whether you teach or write patterns, all of that has a cost, and it affects our ability to enjoy the quilting. If we can't support, and I know there's been some conversations about the brick and mortar stores, how they're fading away. They're fading away because, like me, many of us, I think, are looking for a bargain, right? They can't stay in business. They can't pay the rent and the property taxes and all the other things associated with just having a physical store. So they don't stay in business unless they go online, because a lot of us are shopping online. I'm just sharing that this is the reality. If we, as a community of quilters, want to continue, we need to support each other. And that means supporting the teachers and the content creators, those who make tutorials on YouTube and Instagram and other places, and supporting businesses, whether they're online or brick and mortar. And sometimes this means not taking a pattern that you've purchased, copying it, and sharing it with a friend. Encourage the friend to spend the $15 to support the designer so that the designer can continue to make new patterns. When we take those patterns and we share them, we are taking away from those teachers. And I was going to share this example. I taught at a quilt shop, and the shop owner really liked the course. And she's like, I really like the class that you taught and the materials. Can we buy your teaching material? And so I said to them, why would I sell you my teaching material? That means you don't want to hire me again. You just want to take my teaching material and use it to monetize it over and over and over again. So Lori's like, right. Yes, I agree. Support your local businesses and your teachers so that they can continue to stay in business. Loretta, thank you. I appreciate that. I hope people are understanding. Thank you for taking the course in Delaware. It was worth every penny. Thank you for saying so. So much goes into creating content. Now, remember, when we spend hours creating those samples and videos and etc., there's also a cost associated with travel, preparing. Like tonight, I said I spent hours preparing for this particular show. It's a lot of time. That means it's taking away from other stuff, right? What's the next thing? I know we're at the top of the hour, but the last thing, the value of paid content. She just said it was worth paying for the class. It is worth it. I am in some professional Facebook groups, and there's one for quilt pattern designers. And someone posted today that they received a email from someone who confessed. She says, I have to confess, I copied your pattern and I gave it to my friend, and I shouldn't have done that. She said, I was so convicted. I believe God was telling me that that was wrong, and I had to make it right. So I'm making it right by sending you this email. Please send me an invoice or how I can pay you for that pattern that I stole. And please do not kick me out of your group. She was apparently inside one of this quilters groups for this particular pattern. Thank you, Jean. I really appreciate that. So Kim says, I lost a friend over the same situation. I refused a copy of a pattern for her and tried to explain the copyright laws. Thank you, Kim. I'm sorry you lost your friend, and you were doing the right thing. And sometimes there is a price to pay for doing the right thing. But the worst thing that we can do is to harm ourselves, right? And to harm our conscience from doing the right thing. It's worth paying for content. Yes, a lot of us enjoy helping you go to the next step in your journey. But in order for us to continue to do it, we have to get paid sometimes. Whether it's a t-shirt, an online course, an in-person event. And there have been times when I've said, I can't do it anymore. I am tired. I am tired. And if when you are tired and all you get is give me, give me, give me, give me, I want another video. Can you show me how? Can you give me this? And you say, okay, yes, I've created it for you. I spent hours creating this course on how to set up your machine for free motion quilting success, and it's only $25. No, I don't want it. And I get that. I'm on a budget too. There are a lot of things that I want to do that I can't do because I'm on this budget. But I want to say this. I know that I can put aside my pennies. I can save and I can do that thing if I want to. I can save and sacrifice something else in order to do that thing. I know we're living in a difficult economy right now, and some people are struggling just to make ends meet, to pay the light bill, to pay the mortgage, or unemployed, and I know there's a challenge. So how can we support creators? We can give a video a thumbs up. We can make a positive comment. We can say thank you. We can say that was a good tutorial. We can share the content with others. Like Quilt Conversations Live, if you've enjoyed this very candid conversation tonight, as well as the other tutorials and topics and tips I share, tell your friends. That's another way that you can encourage me and other content creators is to hit the like button, subscribe to their channel, their Facebook page. You can also share it. Hit the share button to share it with others so that it gets spread out and so that those who have more disposable income and like what they're talking about can then support that person. So I may not have the financial ability to pay for something at some point, but I can say, you know what? I know so and so who's looking for a machine, or I know so and so who's looking for a pattern. So I'm going to recommend so and so who I've watched her content for years. She's an amazing teacher, and I'm going to help promote her and point people toward her so that she can get paid for what she does. That's another way we can support those who help us in the community, the quilting community, to learn to grow as quilters. That just requires some of our time. I'm so glad that you tune in, Jean, whenever you can. Sharon, yes, this was a very interesting conversation, and I appreciate all the thanks. Ladies, I am going to end this conversation here and just remind you that I love quilting like you do. I enjoy spending time with you ladies here on Quilt Conversations Live. And I'm going to do it as long as I can, but there will come a point when I won't be able to do it, right? For some reason or another. And I want to be clear on that. It's everything I do online that you see has a cost. It has a cost. Not just me, all of us. So find a way to support one another, not just me, but others out there in the quilting community. I hope this has been an encouragement. I don't want this to end on a downer. If it feels like that, I apologize. I just want to be straightforward and candid with you. Have a great week, everyone. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Don't forget to give this a thumbs up if you haven't already. And also share this Quilt Conversations Live with your friends. Tell people that, hey, Geraldine Wilkins, a living water quilter. She's a fabulous teacher and she does great tutorials and great tips, but she also teaches in person. Why don't you invite her to your guild to teach, to give a lecture? That's another way that you can help me to continue what I do. Recommend me. Recommend other quilters, teachers. You are welcome, Lori. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for this helpfully insightful conversation. I'll see you next time for another Quilt Conversations Live. There we go. I couldn't find my outro.